Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening again, wherever this video may find you. It's as always Gavin, and we are here with a Ferrari 360. This is my second Ferrari experience ever. The first one was a 456 with an automatic gearbox, and that was kind of meh. But we're here in one of my favorite canyon roads.
The sky is beautiful. We're in the mountains, on a road. I have a manual. Nonetheless, everything's going great. What the hell?
What the
I think we just stumbled into something, ladies and gentlemen. What?
Can you believe this?
What are you doing here?
What the are you doing here? This is my video.
I should have kept this on to interrupt you, but like, Brad loaned me this car to do a video on.
Well, Brad's brother loaned this from me.
There seems to be some lack of communication here.
I guess so.
But hang on. I started this first.
So did you?
I'm going to continue this. Let me just quickly immobilize my immobilizer. Okay. Bye-bye.
I'm calling his ass.
Oh, hey. Guess who's calling me? Gavin. Well, hello.
I can't have one drive on a weekend without you ruining it.
Always. I am always here to ruin your day, especially in a Ferrari.
Like, this is my first mid-engine V8 Ferrari that I've ever driven. Like, I wanted to have like a really special moment. You know, you only get one first time.
I mean, yeah, I guess that's true, and many different things. Well, you know, but here's the thing. I can't hear you!
I'm louder.
Okay, yes, you do have that. Yours is definitely louder.
That's just intoxicating now, isn't it?
It's ironic this car came with an F1 gearbox because your car almost sounds F1.
So these cars are gated manual swaps. The swap itself was done by our good buddies at Rev9 Group. All right, so it looks like we have some bad service.
I said these kits are amazing and having a gated manual is fantastic.
Having the gated manual is fantastic. We haven't driven the F1 cars, but we haven't exactly heard great things. And the thing about swapping these over is that this is actually kind of keeping these 360s and the 430s and other cars alive.
Oh boy, are they alive!
Oh, oh, this is what dreams are made of. These are what dreams are made of. Thing about keeping these cars alive. When they're clunky and they're not as good to drive when they're the F1 autos, the incentive to drive them and keep them happy is much reduced over what it would be if you actually wanted to drive your car, which means these cars sit, things rot, plastic gets brittle, fluids gum up. It's just all bad.
Conveniently, we drove so hard and so fast, we may have lost cell signal.
We are too fast for the cell towers.
Faster than the speed of light. I mean, that is the Italian way, right? They are very optimistic about whatever. Oh yes, this car can go faster than the sun.
Well, I think that's been proven correct, but now that we can embrace the fact that we have walkies and we can actually still keep talking, and these cars are phenomenal to drive, and we'll get into that because we're going to give our own little solo reviews, but yeah, you for kind of raining on my parade by, you know, coming up with the same car.
I mean, come on now. It doesn't matter who or when or what parade gets rained on. If you're offered to drive a gated manual Ferrari, you just do it. I do have to say though, I am glad this isn't the F1 because I don't even think how we're driving it in this canyon is enough to make that gearbox good.
Anyways, Justin, talking to you over walkie-talkie is great and all, and we could even record a podcast if we wanted to from these two cars, because that could be fun. But I really want to get down to the nitty-gritty about these cars and the driving dynamics and all the things that we like to do when we do these reviews. So I'll just see you later, and we can circle back.
Sounds good. There's a fork in the road coming up. I'll go left and you go right.
All right, you heard the man. See ya. All right, well, now that we have a moment to ourselves, let's talk about this Ferrari 360. 360 stands for 3.6 liter V8. The V8 makes about 395 horsepower, 275 foot-pounds of torque, and a delightful, scrumptious, flavorful exhaust. I love these gear ratios. The gear length themselves are still on the longer end because we have 8,500 RPM to work with. However, they are all rather close to each other, so you still find yourself shifting a lot. Now, about the driving dynamics and the feel and all that, the car has hydro steering. We love hydro steering, or hydraulic steering if you want to be proper about it. There's feeling in the front, and there's communication through the back and through the side to side. And what I will say, the chassis dynamics and how the car behaves and the character of it, for those of you that have driven Lotus Elises, and for those of you that have driven Porsche Caymans, like a 987 Cayman, is kind of in the middle, where you definitely get more of a sense of what's going on. I would argue more than the Porsche. However, it's not going to snap your head off like a Lotus Elise would. You can actually, and I'm not going to demonstrate this on camera right now, but you are able to turn traction control off. It has traction control. And if you know where traction control wants to kick in and where it breaks out, like it did there, this car has beautifully controlled power slides through short, nimble corners. And we're in one of my favorite parts of East Canyon. Here, third to second. And then second to first. Oh! And it's not just because the engine revs high. There's also a bass to it too. Even when you're north of 6,000 RPM, there's a full rock band going on. You have your guitarist shredding on the 12th fret and above, but then you have your bass player and your rhythm guitar section. This car is so rock and roll. Oh, top down, heel toe. Maybe that's what the band is called, top down, heel toe. Zero to 60 back in the day was just shy of 5 seconds. That was quick, but that was before all these sports cars and supercars became boosted with turbos. It only makes 275 foot-pounds of torque at sea level. We're not at sea level. We're at, 5,000 to 6,000 feet. So the car has lost a little bit of power by coming up here. However, we get to make up for that a little bit with an aftermarket Remus exhaust. That's what's on this yellow car. Justin's silver car is on the factory exhaust, which is interesting because you get all of the intake and induction noise with his car. There's not that much induction noise happening here, just some valve tick, just some valve noise. And it's all exhaust. With the exhaust, with the fact that I'm shifting like this, and with the fact that this car rides a little harder from the big wheels, I kind of feel like I'm driving a race car on the street. Driving this just feels naughty. It cracks and it burbles. It's here to play. You legally shouldn't be able to have this much fun. This is way too much fun to legally have. so good. And with the gated manual, it's interesting actually. The only other gated cars that I've driven have been Audi R8s. And there's a slickness to that. There's also more of like a metallic click when you slot into the gate. It's kind of tactile, or more tactile in that way, whereas this is just kind of gets it done. This is one of those things where like I actually kind of get it now. I've been a Porsche guy my whole life. Dad had a 964 and a 911 SC Targa at separate times when I was growing up. That 964 Carrera 4 is what got me into cars. I owe everything to that car. I would love to find it someday and to drive it and put it on camera. I can't buy one, so I might as well do that. I've always viewed Ferrari as something from afar, especially when I was growing up. The people that owned Ferraris were definitely more snooty. They were definitely a bit more elitist, and I don't know where that is now, if it's with Porsches, with McLarens, still with Ferraris. But growing up, I liked them, but I was never like super into Ferraris. This being the first real Ferrari experience, but with this specific car, I totally get it. I don't really have much experience when it comes to the older Italian supercars. I rode in a Countach once. I haven't driven anything like a 308 or a Diablo, or the only other gated cars I've driven. I briefly drove Stradman's Gallardo on a road trip. That was probably one of the heaviest clutches I've ever driven in my life. This is much simpler and easier to use. It's heavy at some points, but it's always consistent, which is good. What I will also say is this car is excellent at hiding speeds. With this car being mid-engine and there isn't a super long front end to this, I don't feel like this is a super large dinosaur that's lumbering down the road. I don't feel that way at all. I feel like this is an excellent size for a sports car. I don't feel like I'm crowded in my lane. I'm kind of just going through the motions here. The steering is sharp, but it isn't so sharp like the electric steering racks are, where it gets darty. It's just such a complete car. And it feels especially complete with this gated manual. This is amazing. For the past 2 days, it's felt like we've been living in Forza Horizon, Utah edition. The roads have been relatively open. We're in these open top, Italian sports cars. Oh my God. This doesn't feel real. I still feel like I'm about to wake up from the dream.
So now that I have you, on my own, do have to admit, Gavin's car does sound really, really good. Once you're past 7,000 RPM, it feels like an F1 car. The noise gets so snarly, and since it's a flat plane crank, dry sump V8 with equal length headers, it's just amazing. It is a banshee scream. However, I love the intake of this car. And this car just happens to, by whatever nature over the years, feel just a little bit more worn in a good way. Everything's just nicely broken in perfectly. And I can't think of a better first Ferrari experience. Like, it's a cloudy day, it's in the 70s, we both have a car, and miraculously, I didn't think anybody was going to be joining me, but apparently we each got surprised. And driving this car has made me think of a few things. This car isn't light, it weighs 3,400 pounds, it is approaching 400 horsepower. It's a pretty good car, but it's not too much. This amount of power is usable pretty much anywhere. I can downshift easily. and bring out the gears, but not necessarily be scared that I'm instantly in felony territory. The speedometer is also Italian optimistic, so it's about 10% higher than you're actually going, which is great. Keeps you a little bit on the safe side. The gearbox feels fantastic. Now, if you don't know, these F1 gearboxes are a gigantic hydraulic assembly that controls the clutch and all the shifting for you. But when you actually remove all that, install a regular shift body, install a clutch slave cylinder with a pedal up here. These pedals that they use are titanium. They feel fantastic. And you convert a car that, while at the time was amazing technologically, into a car that's more usable. The F1 gearbox was one of those technologies that aged like cheese. Sharp cheddar left out in the humid heat aged. Very bad mold and not good. Whereas turning it back into this, with this 6-speed shifter, with the gated manual, has brought the car forward about, not necessarily years, but in feeling. You don't feel like this car is dragging you down, because I can now easily shift, do everything I want, and I'm not worried about the F1 transmission deciding to second guess me or just not being able to keep up. Granted, when you're going faster, those were okay. They would keep up at full chat, but man, anytime you're around town, good luck. This has made me mainly think of a few things. As I mentioned earlier, this is about a $110,000 car, all things considered, once you're talking about a swapped one. An F1 car you can have for quite a bit cheaper. But swapped one is the one to get. Unless, for some reason, you might not be able to drive it. That is what it is. And if I'm honest, driving a car like this continues to make me concerned for the future. Not necessarily that the manual gearbox is dying. It is, for a lot of reasons, and it is what it is because technology progresses, right? As much as it sucks, we need to get out of internal combustion engines for environmental reasons. We've done the same song and dance for 100 years now and squeezed most realistically out of what we can of this basic general principle of combustion and ignition. We are on the hunt for something new, but the problem with EVs are they are too well engineered most of the time. Yes, they're amazing in a straight line, but they lose most of their feeling once you're doing anything more than that. Now, there are companies that have shown us that doesn't always have to be the case. Hyundai with the Ioniq 5N stunned everybody. Even when that's so well engineered, it's all programming, it's gonna struggle to compete with this. And I think there needs to be more initiatives that, yes, while we do need to embrace what's coming forward in the future, because no matter what we as automotive enthusiasts do is not going to stop it, we need to have more initiatives to protect cars like these, because I don't want there to come a point that something like this cannot be used, or it's even more expensive to use because you now have to have permits to drive a gasoline-powered car. That is a day I fear. However, I'm also a technology enthusiast, so I look at new tech and I try to think, how could this improve the experience instead of just degrading it? Again, I think car manufacturers like Hyundai, and hell, even Lucid to some degree with some of their creative thinking, has shown us that is possible. I don't know. I'm struggling to find too much to critique. Yes, going back to this car, yeah, there's some Italian plastics. Yes, there's some Italian leather problems. There's always the fear that there could be an issue, and that's a logical fear. Most of this car, though, is relatively straightforward mechanically. A lot of it is nuts and bolts, no different from a Miata, just obviously more expensive with a prancing horse badge and a few extra steps. This is something you could care for on your own without a Ferrari expert. And given how usable this is, it weighs 3,400 pounds. This one with the 18-inch wheels, the stock wheels, is fairly compliant. It doesn't feel like it's gonna beat me to snot. And also, as a side note, there's been tons of studies that have proved and gone on about the fact that keeping older cars driving is more environmentally friendly than just junking them. Because yes, an EV is friendly when you drive it, but they do have a lot of manufacturing problems, and so does every other car. Even buying a new Corolla, the manufacturing process still is an emissions disaster. So keeping something like this running and in good condition, even with as inefficient as these cars are in fuel, let me tell you, it's expensive, means that you can use it more. You are actually helping the environment by not just trashing something that didn't need to be trashed. Just wanted to pull over here and give 2 last thoughts. I love this car. I think that if you have the opportunity, please drive one, because it's been an eye-opening experience. This engine is an orchestra and symphony altogether. It is just shouting at the top of its lungs constantly, not boring even when going at full speeds, engaging, mechanical, all of the above. And I highly recommend it, especially if you're somebody that's maybe looking at like a 6-figure new car, but it's not your daily, it's not your first car. This along with a slew of other choices from 2000 to about 2010 are amazing options. Before everything got a little too dull and cars got a little too capable, because yes, as Miatas have proved for decades now, being too capable is boring. Slow car fast equals fun, and in this case, quick car fast equals very fun. That being said though, I think I need to go meet up with Gavin, make amends, and on top of that, I need to prove to him that I'm the real Ferrari owner. See this cap? I bought this 7 years ago at the Ferrari store in New York, and yes, I was the schmuck that paid $80 for a hat with a prancing horse that's made out of Alcantara. But it's never felt more fitting, and it makes me feel like I need to go apologize, and at the same time, gloat. Holy shit, dude.
Oh my God, like what an amazing day that we've had here.
Yeah, but you weren't very happy at the beginning.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. When you drive a gated manual Ferrari through the canyons, with someone who is your friend, even though you didn't ask them to be there, it'll still put a smile on your face.
See, the hat gave me permission.
You know, I thought you looked a little different.
Yeah, 7 years ago I bought this hat. I was a schmuck that paid $80 for it, and it has never felt more fitting in this car.
Well, it's funny because I remember when we went to the Shelby Museum, you decided to wear it there as a little bit of that moment, you know?
Oh yeah, but as to show exactly what makes the day better, listen to this.
Oh yeah, I can do that too.
These gated manuals were amazing. So these were obviously swapped from our good friends at Rev9 Auto Group from F1 cars to gated manuals.
And they're not just taking someone else's kit. They're making all the parts in-house.
Yep.
And all you just got to do is go to them, either with the car that you have, or they will have completed cars. These two are completed cars from Rev9. And at the time that this video is going to go live, will be for sale. So we'll drop all those details in the little description down below if you're interested. Or if you just want to, look at the market and see what's up. It's too bad because these do have to go away, and we do have to give them back eventually.
So, I had so much fun with this. And, I put a bit to camera when I was on my own little drive that didn't involve you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I know. Where this car made me a little nostalgic and a little teary-eyed for kind of where we are at in the automotive community, because it's not bad, but for 100 years, we basically perfected the automobile where the engine and the process, suck, squeeze, bang, blow, and the transmission, in a manual just like this, virtually unchanged, except for the addition of synchros, have been perfected. And this was really when that eclipsed and climaxed.
Well, it's interesting. The automotive industry has mostly moved on from this experience of naturally aspirated, for mid-engine sports cars, just the engine in the middle. This doesn't have any hybridization. This doesn't even have electric power steering.
No turbo, not even turbo lag.
No, there's no lag with these. When you are in gear and you give it anything, you feel in the back of your seat.
Yes.
The industry has moved on, but I also wouldn't be surprised if there was a movement to kind of come back to this, because this really can't be forgotten.
It can't. And I think that's why some of these things have kept their value so well. It's not just because it's a Ferrari. I think it's because these Ferraris in particular are really good. Like, this was when Ferrari actually figured their shit out.
The car still looked good.
Yep.
The car still sounded really good.
And they're not nearly as bad to maintain. You don't have to take out the entire engine to do the regular maintenance on the timing belt. Like, you could feasibly, with a little knowledge, maintain this yourself.
Yeah.
In most cases. And I couldn't think of anything better. Like, yes, these cars, a manual swap one like this is still north of 100,000. It's about 110. However, if you think about what you'd be paying, like what modern car equivalents you'd be paying for 110, there's a very, very small amount that would even come close to this
Especially
level of
new
magic.
cars.
Yeah.
If we're talking about, let's say for easy money, right, or easy math, a neighborhood ballpark of 100 grand.
Yep.
New cars that are coming out now, or cars that have been released in the last, let's say, 3 years.
Yep.
A lightly used 992 Carrera, not as fun as this.
Not even close.
I haven't driven the new Amira. Would like to. That might be almost as fun. It's not going to sound as good.
No.
Not a lot of cars sound better than this.
That's the thing, is that's what's difficult. A modern car, most modern cars, even some sports cars, not supercars, would be faster than these.
Yeah, they were what? They were 4.6 seconds to 60?
Yeah. But here's the thing. As with everything in life, numbers don't tell the whole tale. Because this is under 400 horsepower. It's 396. It's not under 4 seconds to 60. There's plenty of regular pedestrian cars, more or less, that do those numbers.
Oh, there are pedestrian EVs that cost half as much as what these cost now that will smoke this from a light.
The difference is these give the whole package. It's the feeling, it's the steering, the chassis, the sound, the brakes, all of it.
You get to use all of your extremities to drive this, and you need coordination with all of your extremities. So there was a couple of moments that I had off camera, and I wanted to make sure they were left off camera, where I was actually confident enough to turn traction control off.
Yeah?
I wouldn't normally be one to turn traction control off, really, in most of the cars that we drive.
Especially on public roads.
Especially on public roads, let alone in someone else's Ferrari.
Yes.
But traction control was definitely kicking on enough earlier where I actually could gauge where it was going to happen. I could predict it.
I was telling you.
And so I turned it off.
Yeah.
This is one of those Rolodex moments where I'm gonna store that in my head for a very long time, where a little bit of power at the mid corner, just a little bit of steering input to correct it a little bit, and just driving with I was really driving with all four of my extremities, my left hand, right hand, and both of my feet, getting that heel toe to go into the corner, chucking it in.
Yeah.
Giving that throttle, and then just kind of driving with the throttle in my hands. It was one of those moments I will never forget.
And I think the thing with these is that they deliver all those 5 things I mentioned earlier, but they also don't beat you up. I am impressed, especially with this car, with its 18-inch wheels instead of the 19 430 wheels that you have in yours.
Yeah.
This rides relatively well.
It really does, actually. I wish my car drove that well.
In fact, we had one of the individuals that pulled over while we were doing this, that pulled in with his lowered Carrera 4S 991 car. Really nice.
That's not the party piece of the car. It was pro-charged and on an E85, but yeah, sure.
But he came over, and when he was checking these out, he's like, man, I wish I had that ground clearance.
No, it's actually not as easy to scrape one of these as one might suggest.
I think we had a lot more near misses with the Vanderhall. This was easier than the
Vanderhall. The Vanderhall has a wheel in the middle, so you can't just drive over a pothole.
And it has this swoop down on the whole front of its circular grille. So honestly, if I had 100 grand, something like this is probably what I would choose.
So this or a really clean NA2 NSX. Pop-up headlight NA2 NSX.
That's a hard choice.
Could be a video?
Could be a video. Because I think they'd be decently competitive, because this is where Ferrari figured all their shit out.
Yeah.
And so you could feasibly, as a layman, take care of this yourself, just like you could with the NSX. It's obviously going to cost a little more. It has a prancing horse. Therefore, it is going to be more expensive. There is some clout that comes with that if that's your thing. But the reality is, you get for about $100,000 an experience that I don't think there's a car you can buy that would fully fulfill it anymore.
No, and like this car truly feels special at any speed. It's a charm and a delight to, you know, when you finally catch someone in the canyons, because you will. It feels special there, and it feels just as special when you're, you know, exceeding your 8,500 RPM red line. It feels genuinely entertaining and great to drive everywhere. And God, I wish more cars sounded like this.
Yes.
More Ferrari content for the channel. I think this is basically what this video means.
Yep. I do have, nothing is without fault, so I do have to mention a couple things. If you are considering this, consider the fact it is a Ferrari. Therefore, there will always be a couple things. For instance, sticky buttons and switches, dashboard doing a wave. There's lots of little things like that that are very common with the Territory. You are buying an old Italian car that was not necessarily from some funny cosmetic points meant to last the test of time, but all those things are fixable. They don't really matter. I haven't cared about like any of the small cosmetic flaws this car's had. No. They have not affected the driving experience, and I don't even think they'd affect my purchasing experience given that pretty much all these cars have it.
Yeah.
Screw it.
Yeah.
This car eclipsed its flaws.
Oh, 1,000,000%.
And I think that alone is an achievement of a lifetime.
So get yourself one. Achieve that by calling 867-5309.
Jenny!
We're getting delirious. It is the end of a very long day, and want to just thank you all for watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you want a Ferrari 360, I would give Rev9 guys a call.
And if you want a car like this, look out for Rev9 Auto Group. That'll start doing a few more of these as we go along. We'll have their information in the details as well.
Exactly. And unfortunately, we've been joined by a 2 Series Grand Touring, or Grand Coupe, I'm sorry. And so we'd like to shield you from that. So let's get out of here.
Yep. Thank you all for watching. See you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.